Subscribers, it's me, Ivana Cook. Welcome to my channel. It's time for another edition of Soul Food, the show where we learn all about the ingredients for a healthy Christian life. Plus, we get to cook some really good food. As you all know, in every show, I like to have a guest chef. Well, my guest chef today came all the way from Shanghai, China to be with us today. Everyone, please welcome No Mo Pain.
How are you? I am Chef No Mo Pain. And I am glad to be on Soul Food.
Well, we are glad to have you today. I can't believe you came all the way from China.
I am not from China.
Well, it says right here on my card that you're from Shanghai. That's in China.
You're so silly. I am from Shanghai, as in from Shanghai School. It is in Nebraska. I am a home economics teacher.
Oh, my bad. Well, can you show us what we're going to be cooking today?
I am glad you asked. We are going to make cheesy potatoes. It is from a recipe my grandma used to make.
Okay, please don't mention grandmas. I'm in a bit of a thing with my grandma right now. She created her own video channel just like mine and makes cooking videos too. But she has like 3 times as many subscribers as me.
Little girl, you are doing lots and lots of this, and I need you to be doing lots and lots of this. Now, do you want me to cook this dish or not?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Don't call me a goat head.
No, I said go ahead.
I am trying to, but you keep doing this.
Okay, sorry.
Now, to make Grandma's famous cheesy potatoes, you must first grab all of your ingredients and put them in front of you like so. Then it requires 1 whole block of cheese.
Don't you want to shred that cheese?
Why would I want to shred a perfectly innocent block of cheese? Now, you grab 2 eggs.
Shouldn't you crack and beat those eggs?
Crack and beat the eggs? What are you, some type of monster? Why would you want to do that to those eggs? What did they ever done to you?
Well, nothing.
Eat! Then you take 2 potatoes, skin and all, put them in the bowl.
I really think you should skin and mash those potatoes.
Skin and mash the potatoes? Why should they have to suffer like that? Listen to you. You want to skin and mash the potatoes. You want to shred the cheese. You want to crack and beat the eggs. Food should not have to suffer like that. It's just not right.
Nomo, I think you're misunderstanding. I know it may seem like a bad thing for you to have to beat the eggs, shred the cheese, and skin the potatoes, but food has to be prepared like that.
What do you mean?
You beat the eggs so that they mix well with other ingredients. You shred the cheese so that it melts better. And you have to mash potatoes so that they're smooth and not chunky.
So you're telling me that food has to go through all of those things to become what it is supposed to be.
That's right. And you know, it's the same way in the Christian life. Some people think that Christians shouldn't have to suffer and go through hard times either. But suffering is something that God sometimes uses to help shape and mold us into the Christians that He wants us to be.
Suffering makes us stronger?
It does if we put our trust in God. Bad things happen, but God can use the bad for good if we let Him. You're going to learn all about a man in the Bible named Stephen and how God used his suffering to accomplish something good.
You know, the kids will never learn anything until you learn how to. So, her name is Ivana Cook, and this is Soul Food. Now, remember, we have to beat Granny in subscribers, so click the button below. Go ahead, click it. Click the button.
Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Cynthia. Thank you for joining me. Today, boys and girls, we're going to start our new series entitled Soul Food, okay? And basically what that means is a lot of these lessons are going to be food for your soul. They're going to be about things that you will feel or that you will encounter while serving Jesus, okay? So this week, we're going to focus on suffering. Okay, and today's Bible story is found in the book of Acts, chapter 6 through 7. And it's a story about the events that took place just a little while after Jesus rose from the dead and ascended to heaven. And so the apostles began preaching and teaching about Jesus and throughout the land. And many leaders that loved Jesus Christ that rose up amongst those who became Christians. And so one of those leaders was a man named Stephen. And so Stephen preached about Jesus and prayed for others to become Christians. And so guess what? This did not sit well with some of the other religious leaders that were, around the area. And so they were afraid that if Stephen continued to preach about Jesus, then they would lose some of the power they had over some of the people there. And so these religious leaders made a plan to trap Stephen. And so they convinced some people to lie about Stephen and say that he had said some things that he didn't say. And so that's not very fair, is it? So Stephen's reputation suffered as a result of all of these lies that were said about him. But guess what? That's not all. That is not the only suffering that Stephen went through. Stephen was put on trial before the Sanhedrin. And so he's, a council of a religious leader. So maybe like a judge or, kind of like if people go to court nowadays, they're in front of a judge. So kind of like that. And so the high priest asked Stephen if the things he was being accused of were true. And so Stephen answered him by talking about Jesus and told him that some of the people were responsible for Jesus' death. And so when the religious leaders heard Stephen tell them they were guilty of murdering Jesus, they didn't respond in a positive way. So the same people that were accusing him of being a liar or just saying things that he wasn't supposed to, those were the same people that were accusing Jesus or that accused Jesus and took him to the cross. And so these were very, very angry, stubborn people who were still rejecting the good news about Jesus. And so they rushed towards Stephen, they grabbed him and dragged him out of the city. And so they were so angry with Stephen and God's message, they all gathered large rocks in order to stone Stephen. Even as Stephen was suffering as a result of sharing God's truth, listen to the last words he said, okay? Even as he was suffering and he was being stoned, listen to what he said. He looked up to heaven and said, "Lord, do not hold this against these people." Wow, boys and girls. That is an incredible attitude. In the midst of everything that was happening to him, in the midst of his suffering and his pain, boys and girls, while he was being stoned, he said, "Do not hold this against these people that are doing that to him." And so, boys and girls, sadly, the people threw stones at Stephen and he died. And so, boys and girls, I know this story may seem like it has a sad ending, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And here's why. Stephen was stoned to death, but he was not alone as he suffered. He saw Jesus in heaven waiting for him. And so Stephen left his life on earth and went to heaven to spend eternity with his Savior, Jesus Christ. You know what eternity means? Forever, forever, and ever, and ever, never ending. It goes on and on. And so he went to heaven to be with Jesus Christ. And so not only that, boys and girls, but the story of Stephen was told throughout the land. And many, 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 many other people came to know Christ or became Christians as a result of his story, of his testimony. And so today, boys and girls, we will learn and we will focus on believing and knowing that suffering is a part of a healthy Christian life and that God can use our suffering to accomplish great things. And so today, boys and girls, the lesson that we have to focus on is living for Jesus, okay? So, many people have a big misunderstanding. Big misunderstanding means like when somebody tells you something and you don't understand, but it turns out that it wasn't really true. So you have to really find out for yourself, what the truth is. So people have a big misunderstanding about what it means to live for Jesus, right? So too often, people ask Jesus to forgive them, which is, the first and correct step to take, to forgive them of their sins and be the Lord of their lives. but then they expect the rest of their life to be one easy, wonderful, stress-free, problem-free vacation. And so then they think, okay, I'm ready to live for God. I asked for forgiveness and I asked Jesus into my heart. And so now I'm ready to live the good life, right? And so boys and girls, they think that just because they are Christian, life will be easy. But guess what? Well, now life isn't going to be easy at all. Everything is going to just fall right into place, right? So let's see. You think that you're going to be able to sit back and relax and think, well, now that I'm a Christian, I can just sit back and relax and enjoy life and nothing bad is ever going to happen to me, right? And so that's kind of what some people think, that it's just going to be a big party, everything's going to be, fine and well. Well, boys and girls, listen to this verse, okay? Let's focus on a power verse. Today it comes from John 16, verse 33. And it says, I have told you these things so that you may have peace in me, right? And so here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Okay, let's repeat that. John 16:33. I have told you these things so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Okay, John 16:33. So that is not how Jesus described what life would be like if we chose to follow him, sitting back and just having a good time and not having any problems, right? He never promised life would be easy with no difficulties or rough spots. And boys and girls, remember when Jesus and his disciples were having the Last Supper? It was the last time they were going to be together before Jesus was crucified on the cross. And so Jesus was giving the disciples some final instructions. He didn't want them to think that following him was going to be easy. So he told them that people would not understand them. People would try to hurt them. And some people would even try to kill them, right? And so Jesus was telling them that this life was going to be a fight, right? But it's not a fight against other people, like a physical fight, that some of you might get into. It's a fight against our enemy. And you know who the enemy is? The devil, boys and girls. And so with that fight, with that spiritual fight, there's going to be suffering. There's going to be suffering. And so when Jesus said, in this world, you will have many trials and sorrows, really what he was saying is that this isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be a fight against the devil every single day. He didn't say he didn't say we might have troubles. He said we will. Like that's an absolute definite. It's going to happen. We will have many trials and sorrows. And so we will suffer, boys and girls. And that's part of life. It's one of the ingredients of a healthy Christian life as well. So boys and girls, too many people go to church, and serve God. And as long as everything is going their way, they're feeling good, they're loving God, they're praising Jesus, singing songs. But then when it starts becoming rough and it becomes starting a real fight, a real spiritual fight, right? They quit coming to church, they quit praying, and sadly they decide to give up, and that's because they had the idea that following Christ would be easy, right? That's because they had that misunderstanding that if I follow Jesus, everything's going to be perfect in my life, right? So that's a misunderstanding because God said you will have trouble, right? So they didn't think suffering was going to be a part of the deal, right? So boys and girls, Jesus said quite the opposite, okay? He said life as my follower means you will be doing battle with the enemy every day, right? You're going to be battling every day, right? And it's going to be tough. And it's going to be a fight, right? Like we said, it's not a physical fight. It's a spiritual fight. It's a mental fight, right? And so he didn't stop there. Not only did he say that, but He said sometimes it would be depressing. He didn't just say, in this world you will have many trials and sorrows. He went on to say, but take heart. Take heart. And what does that mean, boys and girls? It means that when bad things happen, you can trust God. Okay? Jesus said, although this world will bring us lots of trouble, lots of suffering, and many fights with the enemy, we don't have to worry or be afraid, boys and girls. He said, take heart. See, too many kids, too many children, they're afraid of the devil. They're worried that he will try to hurt them or ruin their lives. But Jesus said, boys and girls, and listen carefully, in this world, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart. Yeah, it's a fight. Yeah, you're going to be sad sometimes. Yeah, you're going to go through some bad things in your life. But don't be worried. Don't be afraid. Have courage, boys and girls. Take heart. Trust God. Trust God. Jesus said, take heart because I have overcome the world. And guess what that means, boys and girls? He's already won the fight for you. All you have to do is follow through. The fight is already won. Okay? So even though we may go through suffering, also, God can use bad things for good. Okay? Everything bad that happens to you or to us, He can turn it around. If you're serving Him and trusting in Him and obeying Him, He can turn all of that negative stuff in your life, He can turn it around and turn it for good. Okay? So even though you may suffer, God will give you peace. Even though you may suffer, God can use bad circumstances. God can use pain. God can use the suffering to accomplish His will. Right? Remember Stephen from our Bible story? Okay, so he was stoned to death, and it seemed like he lost the fight, right? Well, I mean, physically it seemed like he lost it because he was dead, right? But really, boys and girls, Stephen's death was used, God used his death to inspire many other people because his story was told all around the land. His testimony was told all around the land. God used it to help other people come to know Christ, right? And so God used the suffering that Stephen went through to accomplish so many amazing things, boys and girls. And so God will do the same for you, and He'll do the same for me. And boys and girls, right now, you may be going through some hard times. Your family may be suffering through some difficult days. But boys and girls, just remember that God can use the bad for good. God can use your testimony, your story of everything bad that's happening in your life. And that's what your testimony is, right? You take everything that has happened in your life and you tell people how God brought you out of that, That's your testimony. And so you can use that to inspire others to put their trust in Jesus Christ. And so suffering, I know suffering is never easy. But in the end, suffering for Christ is so worth it, guys. It's so worth it, boys and girls. And so today, my prayer for you is that if you're going through hard times, boys and girls, that God gives you the right attitude, the right attitude about suffering while you're going through all of this, that God comforts you and that God lets you see what's ahead, lets you see what many blessings are going to come out of this suffering. And so I pray that He gives you peace in your home, in your heart, in your family. And I pray that He helps you use your testimony to inspire others to come to Him. Okay, so let's go over our verse today again. The power verse is John 16:33. I have told you these things so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But take heart, boys and girls, because I have overcome the world. Jesus has overcome the world. He has already won the victory. All you have to do is push through and trust in Him. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great Sunday, and I can't wait to see you in person. Bye.